It's no laughing matter that frogs are literally about to croak. According to the IUCN Red List, of the nearly 6,000 species of frog on this planet, 1 in 3 are threatened with extinction. And right here in South Africa, our frogs are dying to tell us something. 1/5 of our frog species are listed as threatened.
She's traveling through the wild. She's searching for the truth. A tremendous child. She's gonna find the proof. Picking up the trail. She's gonna find the answers. She's gonna tell the tale. She's gonna tell the tale. Keep it wild. Keep it free. This could be our last chance to see.
Creatures of dual lives, frogs have more than just one tale to tell. When night falls in the bush, a whole new cast of characters comes out. Listen to that. It's frogs. Frogs have very large and developed eardrums because of calling and listening being so vital in their world. It's the way that would-be male lovers call their potential partners. I'm taking the leap. I'm going frogging here at Amakhozi Lodge on the Mkuzi River in KZN.
She's traveling through the wild. She's searching for the truth. A true nature's child.
During the journey of their short lives, frogs undergo a metamorphosis that sees complete transformation. To make the leap from tadpole to fully fledged frog demands a habitat in close proximity to living water and a healthy ecosystem. An ideal location is on the banks of Zululand's Mkuzi River, where frogs have the perfect home to complete their transformation, which is as dramatic as day turning into night. Amphibian comes from the Greek word meaning dual life, and frogs live dual lives. They live on land and they live in water. Now that night has set, all the wannabe lovers are slowly but surely making their way down to the water's edge. Alwyn, this is so exciting. How long does it take for them to breed, and is there an absolute urgency in this process?
There's very much urgency. They've got such a short period during the rainy season in which they have to feed, breed, find a mate, complete the whole cycle. So there's a lot to be done in a very short space of time. We're going to see them mating, we're going to see them feeding, we're going to see them vocalizing. Come, let's go.
Ah, fantastic. Spring is the season of love, and so mating begins. And because love is infectious, other creatures partake in sensual bliss. In watery breeding sites, the male attracts the female through a series of calls. Once paired up, the male clasps the female in a piggyback position called amplexus, releasing his sperm as she releases her eggs, which are then fertilized outside the female's body. The eggs hatch into tiny tadpoles, which grow quickly into adult frogs, and then the cycle begins all over again. In the enveloping darkness, the curious croaking sound of frogs serves as our lighthouse, guiding us along the river's secret paths.
We're looking for a snoring puddle frog. This is very, very good habitat for them, and they'll be typically sitting on muddy banks like this and doing their calls. Oh, there we go. Oh, that guy was just too quick. Now this is a sharp-nosed grass frog. Now typically these guys are incredible jumpers. If you just look at his back legs, you can see how powerful and strong they are. He's very, very athletic.
Woohoo! Amid the excitement, a game of leapfrog ensues between Alwyn and Houdini.
Bag there for me. Then I'll pop him in there very carefully.
He's got incredibly strong back legs.
Now this little guy has actually unofficially got the world record for the longest frog jump ever recorded.
Really?
The frog was taken from South Africa to compete in an annual, very well-known frog jumping competition in America. He jumped more than double the length of all the other frogs that was in the competition. I think it's 12 meters.
So that's a fantastic thing for us as South Africans to know, is that really
Yeah.
we have the longest leaping frog in the world. Well, Van, we've just come back to the car for a little break, and guess what we found?
Absolutely, this is a female foam nest frog, and she's obviously thought that the Land Rover is a perfect breeding site because it's so close to the water here, and she would have probably started calling for males. This is one of the tree frogs, and they are very, very good climbers, and you can just see why they are such good climbers if you look at those toes.
We must always remember we must be careful when touching frogs.
Absolutely.
Because we could create their death.
Absolutely, one must handle them with great care, and that's why it's always advisable when you are catching a frog to try and put it in a little plastic bag and observe it through the plastic bag rather than you handling it all the time, especially the really small, delicate ones.
So we're in search now of the foam nest frog.
I just want to point out the nest to you.
Yes.
They've got the most amazing nest. Now this one unfortunately is a bit finished, if I can put it that way, but they make these amazing big balls of foam that the female froth up during the mating process, and it gets up to about that size. And then she will lay eggs specifically inside this foam ball. And that would protect the eggs until a much later stage. You know, once they're old enough, they'll literally just drop through into the water, and then at a much more advanced stage, able to avoid predation a lot better than other species. I'm going to just tear a piece off there. It's very, very foamy and spongy like that. And the texture would probably deter any predator, and it's probably even
Oh my
tasteful.
goodness. It's so soft and delicate and velvety, and it's kind of like meringue that hasn't quite set. It's quite delicate to
Very much so.
pick up a frog.
She's looking at you. They have the most amazing eyes. Just look at those eyes.
It's like a vertical slit.
Absolutely.
Nearly 1/5 of South African frog species are under threat. What happens if we were to lose frogs in the ecosystem?
Frogs are vital links in the ecosystem. Frogs are voracious predators, and they have a very big impact on insect populations. Also, frogs provide food in turn for many, many other predators, other reptiles, birds, mammals. So it's an absolute vital link in the system.
Sounds like it's a very fine balance.
Frogs are essential in the system. We can't do without them.
She's searching for the truth.
Bordering Zululand's Mkuzi River is 10,000 hectares of prime game reserve. Amakhozi Lodge is home to hundreds of species of frogs.
The Mkuzi River is almost like a lifeline for all species in the area, not just your lions and your elephant, also the little things.
And the Mkuzi River, I can fortunately say, is one of the rivers that's actually quite well protected still. And it's a vital lifeline to the St. Lucia wetland area as well. And it is a very, very unique system. It's not dammed up anywhere, so it's still very, very much a natural system.
How do the frog species differ from what you would find in a flowing water situation versus a stagnant or still water situation?
Okay, well, frogs would have adapted to the different types of habitat. You'd have typically common river frogs. For instance, their tadpoles would have adapted to faster flowing water. They would attach themselves to rocks so they don't float away. They would be very well adapted to that environment.
Along the banks of the river, life is rich as it is varied, from forms as tiny as insects to those as impressive as rhinos, enjoying a healthy ecosystem that finds a careful balance between land and water.
On our travels around the AmaZulu Reserve, absolutely stunning, stunning terrain, we've decided we're going to stop off and go in search of some frog food. Where's the best place for us to find frog food?
Well, at the moment in the bush here, we had a lot of rain. There's a lot of water standing around in the bush. Some of our ponds are actually filled up, and I know a perfect place just to go and look for some frog food.
And look, you can already see a foam nest frog's
That's
mating zone.
Yeah, that's the nest of the foam nest frog. A quick scan around. Basically, yeah, if you look closely to the water surface, you see these minute breakings in the water surface. That's already signs of some frog food over there. Basically, with frogs, anything goes. If it can fit in your mouth, you can eat it. But you have to be careful as well. There is some insects that do defend themselves as well.
Ouch, so they could get a sting on the tongue.
Could get a sting on the tongue, a bad taste on the tongue. They could even get a mouthful of poison if they don't be very careful about it. There's a lot of life here, a lot of insects around it, flying insects, crawling insects. And as you can see, there's a little grasshopper that landed in the water there as well.
Ah, look at that, a swimming grasshopper.
That's right, yes. Now, there's a big enough frog that can swallow that little grasshopper. He is going to do it, because the basic fact is a frog swallows what it can. They're not picky about their food, just as long as it fits its mouth, basically.
And frogs don't have any teeth, do they?
They don't have any teeth. They just lap out their tongue. Same action as a chameleon, basically. Just not as a long tongue as a chameleon, but the same action, yeah.
Jaco, with all of these insects, I'm sure that there's a lot of larvae as well in the water.
That's correct. The damselflies you saw flying around here, and there's some dragonflies around as well. These guys have larvae that's actually inside the water. And these larvae, if they're in the presence of frogs, so they also can be taken up, definitely.
Frogs normally indulge in live prey and swallow them whole. Their discerning palate allows them a variety of taste sensations, including everything from water spiders to bees. With their colourful appetites, frogs are also beneficial to humans as they consume many insect pests. And true to the adage, it is only the fittest that get away and survive the tongues of the hungry.
Whirligigs, boatmen, backswimmers. These are some of the descriptive names given to various species of water lice. As human beings, when we are needing to survive in the bush, this is the type of water that you should be drinking. It's live water. And frogs feel the same way. Live water with these water lice in it means that the water is filled with oxygen. And of course, there's lots and lots of food for the frogs to munch on. How have frogs adapted to live in flowing water versus still water?
Obviously, flowing water needs a bit more effort to obviously stay around and swim in. So river frogs and stream frogs typically have very powerful back legs. They're very, very good swimmers, and as a result, very good jumpers because of their powerful back legs. Frogs that you find in still water, in pans, in dams, will have less powerful legs, generally speaking, because they don't need to swim against the current.
What are some of the safety things that we need to keep in mind when we're frogging?
Well, we are in a big game reserve. You know, there's big predators around. There's elephants in the water, hippos and crocs, buffalo likes hanging around wet areas. So you got to be careful of all these creatures. Snakes is also a possibility. So you got to be vigilant, and you got to make sure that you see where you tread, and you got to know what's around the next bush.
Vulnerable than other creatures, amphibians are considered a canary in the coal mine for environmental damage. In the past, canaries were used to detect toxic gases in coal mines. Being more sensitive than humans to pollutants, the canary would die before the miners were affected, warning the miners to leave immediately. With amphibian populations in worldwide decline, scientists are conducting field research that is producing compelling evidence for climate change, UV radiation, pollutants and disease, all of which have detrimental implications for mankind, not just frogs, and the future health of the planet.
Frogs always look like they've got a real purpose, and they look so terribly busy. What are they busy with?
Well, they're busy with the business of life. You know, frogs has got a very rushed life because they've got such a limited time in which to feed, breed, get their youngsters raised. Some frogs actually do raise their youngsters, like bullfrogs will actively protect their tadpoles. So there's a hell of a lot to do in a very short period of time. And, you know, obviously the rain is the vital catalyst for these creatures to start that whole cycle.
The competition amongst frogs to mate is very, very strong, isn't it?
It's incredible. And I mean, while we were out there last night, you could hear the calls of some of the frogs. It's just absolutely chaotic, and competition is absolutely fierce.
Okay, so it's always the strongest, best male frog will win.
Well, that's the law of nature.
Listen there. Cluck, 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 cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. That is the Tinker Reed frog, a very, very pretty frog indeed. So Alwyn and I are going to head off and see if we can find it.
I'll go this way, you go this way a little bit, and see
Okay.
if you can find them.
I'm going to go there. There's one here.
That's perfect. Well, they're everywhere. Good chance of success.
There's very deep water here that we're walking into, even though it's disguised by reeds.
Have a look.
I'm so nervous to walk because there are frogs everywhere. So the hochos out here.
Yeah. Just had a couple go up my nose.
Yeah, me too. My eyes. And in my mouth. Now it's gone again.
Yeah. So they're a bit challenging, but we're going to get one.
Despite a certain skepticism, I did eventually find a frog, and a rare one at that, the Tinker Reed frog, a sight to behold.
Well done, Michelle.
High five, I tell you, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Brilliant. Won't be a problem.
When the sight of a predating cheetah silences us, Alwyn keeps his wit about him.
He was doing a bit of frogging as well. All right, let's go and find that banded rubber frog.
Okay.
He was calling from where it's a lot shallower there on the bank, and hopefully we should locate him there.
Where would you find him? Would he be on a
these
reed?
guys would typically be hiding underneath either vegetation like this or some of these rocks. Oh, he's right there. Beautiful, there he is.
Oh, man. A banded rubber frog.
Banded rubber frog, yeah.
I'm just noticing the most incredible color markings. It's pink and very dark black.
They actually get into quite a bright red, and it becomes even more striking. Now, this is one of our frogs that is quite poisonous. Now, it's not poisonous in terms of it's able to bite you, yes. But if you do stress it out, it releases toxins that can make you quite sick if you get it in orally. So when you've handled this specific frog, please make sure you wash your hands. Other frogs, like we've seen, has got camouflage to hide them from predators. This one has got the coloration to say, don't even try and eat me, I'm poisonous, leave me alone.
Okay, go to the right here, Alwyn. There's a frog.
Oh, brilliant, you got it. That's him right there.
A bubbling casina.
That's exactly what it is, and that's a beautiful specimen. You'll see typically on this